What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and once again, I have a new discussion for you concerning Billy Joe Saunders and Danny Jacobs. I think this is the next targeted fight to be made. I don't think it's Golovkin and Billy Joe, or Canelo and Billy Joe, because those guys, Golovkin and Canelo, are going to fight each other. So you really can't talk about that right now. I know Billy Joe has a fight with Martin Murray, which that should be a pretty good fight. I don't know what type of shape Martin Murray in because I haven't researched him in a while, but he has made his mark in the sport of boxing. By fighting some of the best guys himself. And Billy Joe Saunders is one of the best guys, so I can see why Martin Murray would want to take that fight. But Billy Joe Saunders accepted that fight for him being the WBO champion, so you got to take your hat off to him for taking that type of fight. So that's going to be fought in April. So Danny Jacobs on his end, I don't see that he's picked an opponent as of yet. He beat Luis Arias last year, and I thought that was going to be a pretty good fight, which it turned out it wasn't. Danny Jacobs. I mean, it was great for Danny Jacobs because Danny Jacobs, dominated that fight. But I thought it was going to be more competitive. That's what I mean by that. Before anyone, oh, what do you mean? But it was a good fight, but he hasn't had an opponent as of yet. I always have to. I sit back and I think about how fights are just made after other fighters. Billy Joe beat David Lemieux, right? Billy Joe beat Lemieux. So obviously you look forward to the next fight, And it's amazing how these fights become visible at that point because there's no one else left. Canelo fought Golovkin. Billy Joe beat Lemieux, so Lemieux's out. Danny Jacobs, he had a great fight with Golovkin. So all these guys are fighting each other, right? So, is this really the process of elimination? Who hasn't fought each other? And the two guys that hasn't fought each other is Billy Joe Saunders and Danny Jacobs. So, you got to match these guys up. So let's match them up. You got Danny Jacobs, age 30. Actually, he'll be 31 tomorrow. Billy Joe Saunders, born in like August of 89, so he's 27. Okay, he's Canelo's age, right? I think Canelo's like a couple months, no, maybe a month older than him because I think his birthday's on the 24th of July. Bam. Yeah, it is. So, he's 27. So 27, 28, 2 years difference, not really too much of a difference in age because they're both in their prime. So it is imperative that these guys should make a fight happen sooner and not later, right? So they're pretty much equal in height. Billy Joe is 5'11", Danny Jacobs is right at 6 foot, because these guys are big heavyweights. Danny Jacobs, when he came in there with the Golovkin fight, he looked like at least 180, 178, 179. He didn't get on the unofficial scale, to weigh. So that was a good strategy, I might add. I did a video about that, so look it up if you got time. But he had a tough fight with Golovkin, But Danny Jacobs showed that, first of all, he's not as chinny as people think he is. He can take a punch, He can put it out as much as he can take it. So that was a good fight. So he showed that he was one of the best in a close decision. A lot of people think it was close. I think it was a close and hard fight for Golovkin. I think Golovkin won, but I don't think he won by a huge margin. So there is credibility in Danny Jacobs. And Billy Joe Saunders just blew out David Lemieux. So, it depends on what he does with Martin Murray. I expect him to beat him because he's fresh. He's on this hiatus of success, so he should be able to beat Martin Murray. So these guys win their next fights. These guys should fight. You know what I mean? So, and I think I wouldn't want Danny I wouldn't want Danny Jacobs to wait for Golovkin or Billy Joe to wait for Canelo. You know what I mean? They should fight each other. They should make their own name because they already have their own name. See, what happens now in the middleweight division is quite beautiful, okay? You got guys like Danny Jacobs. You got guys like Billy Joe Saunders. These guys were the lower tier. Not the lowest, but the lower tier under the top guys. And the top guys were who? Canelo, Golovkin, right? So then you had the second tier. tier, and the second tier was Billy Joe and Danny Jacobs. Well, now these guys have raised their credibility, so now they're just as important. They're in the game. This is the wild card spot. So now they're ready to fight. They're ready to, they're just as legitimate as these guys. So by them fighting each other, and if they do it in England, I think England would be better because boxing is alive and well and there's more fans and people are more excited, I feel, just besides the Midwest states and New York and little parts of the Eastern Seaboard and the states here. So I think that it would do better over there. You know what I mean? If it's not New York or, Vegas. So I think it would be good and their name could be done, and whoever wins out of that has to fight the winner out of Canelo or Golovkin. And whoever doesn't fight, we know it's ducking, So if Canelo beats Golovkin, well, Canelo has to fight one of those guys. You know what I mean? But it's great for boxing because Golovkin, like I've told everyone, he's done what he's going to do. Guys ducked him for a long time. But what happened in this situation, when he fought Danny Jacobs, okay, people found out how tough Danny Jacobs was. So now people are like, I don't know if I really want to go in there with Danny Jacobs because he can tussle with Golovkin. So why the hell would I want to go in there and tussle with him, right? So in actuality, him fighting Golovkin the way he fought Golovkin, he actually turned into the next boogeyman, because if the fight between him and Billy Joe Saunders don't get made, and that's Danny's chance to get that WBO belt. If he can't have that opportunity, everyone is going to clear. And then Canelo don't want some of him, a piece of him. And then he goes off and fights somebody else and somebody else. Well, we'll also know that a new boogeyman has been introduced in the middleweight division. His name is Danny Jacobs. And it would rightfully be. He's tall, he's strong, he's powerful, he has a high knockout percentage. You know what I mean? So the guy can bang, punch, move, box. He has skills. So, it's just crazy how these fights are evolving. But I think the next big fight should be, besides Golovkin and Canelo, Billy Joe and Danny Jacobs. And that should go for the WBO, and whoever wins the WBO, from that, they should fight the winner out of Golovkin and Canelo. Boom. Case closed. Right? So equal in the height, size. Billy Joe's a southpaw. Danny Jacobs, he's a switch hitter, so he can mix it up. So that would give Billy Joe Saunders a little trouble, simply because I don't think he's ever been in there with a switch hitter. You know what I mean? And Chris Eubank Jr. don't count. But that's another name up under Billy Joe Saunders. You think about his resume. Billy Joe Saunders has beat Chris Eubank Jr., Arthur Alcoval, David Lemieux. Who else is he? Andy Lee. The guy has a good resume. You know what I mean? And for a while, everyone criticized him, because he did turn down fights like against, Rosado. He turned that fight down, and he turned down a couple fights, of that, But, to avoid that backlash and that criticism, he needs to get in there and fight Jacobs, because he's on a roll, and the best time to fight is when you're on top. So stay at the top if you can. Fight the man. But that's me. You guys tell me what you think about these two guys getting into the ring together. And, of course, I'll be covering the Canelo Alvarez and Golovkin stuff like that. But these goes out for two other guys in the middleweight division, Danny Jacobs and Billy Joe Saunders. Please subscribe. You guys been counterpunched. Peace.